Hey guys, before we get started, be sure to check out TheAirsoftTech on Instagram. Hey guys, welcome to this review on the JG G3. Now JG has always been known for making some pretty cheap rifles as far as price goes, and most of the time they do a pretty good job, but we're going to look on the inside and outside of this gun and see if that's true. Okay, so first out of the box, you pick it up, you're going to notice that just about everything on this thing is plastic. And we're going to be going over everything that is plastic and the things that are metal, which there aren't many metal things. Okay, so just to make things a little more simple, we're going to start from the rear of the gun and make our way back. Okay, so in the rear we got a full stock. Now, in my opinion, full stocks are better than regular stocks. I just don't really like collapsible stocks or anything else. I like a good full stock for two reasons. The first reason is the fact of the battery space. You can just put a bigger battery in here without having to put something on the outside or run a low-powered battery. And so, me personally, since I'm a technician, I like to run things as efficiently as possible. So that's why I like full stocks. And my second reasoning is because usually they're less wobbly. And on this stock, there's little to no wobble. I mean, there's actually none at all. The way it's secured is very nice. It's secured by two screws here, so there's no wobble, pretty much, and it's very nice. Next thing we're going to work our way down is the sling mount here. Now the sling mount here is really thin, but it's made out of metal, so that's one thing. It's made out of metal there. It is decently nice. I did have to shave down the underneath of the pin just to be able to get a sling hooked on. So that's kind of a letdown because a lot of people don't have the tools that I have to do this stuff. So yeah, I did just use a Dremel, so you may have a Dremel and you may have the right bit, and if so, it takes about 5 minutes. So no real big issue there. Moving up the gun, we have our fire selector. Now this fire selector is made out of metal. However, well, not necessarily a bad thing that's made out of metal, but it is really loose when it comes out of the box. Just so loose that when you actually fire the gun, it will actually change on its own. So that's extremely bad in my opinion. And if you have a screwdriver, you can tighten it up on the other side here. But it is 3 position, 0 meaning safety, number 1 here meaning single fire or semi, and the 20, for whatever reason they picked a 20, is automatic. Just below the fire selector, we have the grip and trigger guard. The trigger itself is made out of what feels like metal. If not metal, it's an extremely nice plastic that is very reminiscent of metal. And then right below it, we have our trigger guard. Now the trigger guard is made out of plastic, and that, in my opinion, is undesirable. For one reason, really. The trigger guard is supposed to be kind of tough. It's the trigger guard. And this trigger guard, maybe being made out of the crappy plastic it's made out of, just isn't tough. And that's a little issue for me. But anyway, moving on, we have the grip here. Now, I do like this grip. It is somewhat ergonomical, and the way it's designed is kind of cool and helps you hold it a little better. And also, it doesn't mess with motor height, or doesn't do any of that bad stuff. So it actually messes with the receiver quite well, and that is really no problem. Moving up the gun, we have our rear sight. Now the rear sight is also made out of metal, just like the trigger and some other small parts in the gun. And it's pretty nice. I like its sight picture. It's just open, and it's not so tight like other MP5s and other HK variant weapons. It's well open, and it's not a strained look down. And it's pretty accurate out of the box with the setup it's in. And yep, that's about it. Just right above the rear sight, or right in front of it, we have a sight mount where you can put an optic. And where this gun isn't mine, it's actually my brother's. He opted to put a Chinese-style hollow sight on it, and it fits quite nicely. The rail just seems to fit a various amount of style sights, so no problem with compatibility there. Moving on, we have the Magwell and mag release. Now, the mag release is made out of metal, but the Magwell is made out of plastic, and the locks inside of the Magwell are also made out of plastic. So when it locks into the gun, it's not that durable, and it's actually broken on us. So in here, the Magwell has cracked, and that is very bad on this side of the receiver. It's cracked. I'm going to fix that with some JB weld, but that's just honestly a really big pain, and not something that you should have to put up with in a gun. And also the magazine has snapped off because it's not in spec with the Magwell. And that's just a really dumb problem as well, but it does still stay in there, and it stays in there pretty solid. It's not going to fall out, but it will jiggle out. But yep, just a broken Magwell, so that's undesirable, but oh well. Moving on past the Magwell, we have the rail system. Now the rail system itself is actually pretty solid. It's made out of metal, hopefully and thankfully, and it's actually made out of aluminum. So it's really, really lightweight, and it's really, really durable. However, it's super duper sharp, but that's just really the thing with really about any rail system. They just are really sharp for whatever reason. I guess it's just all the sharp edges on them and stuff like that. The factory manufacturers just don't really, I guess you could say, clean them up. They just kind of throw them on there and get it done. But it is pretty cool. I do like how the rail system looks on a G3. It's just really nice. I like how it's numbered. That just kind of looks kind of cool. I don't like my gun completely plain and free of numbers and stuff, so that's pretty nice. Moving up the rail system, we have the charging handle. Now, the charging handle on this is actually broken off, and that's because JG used some absolutely horrible pot metal, and the pot metal that they used is just, is garbage. So when we first got this gun, my brother pulled it out of the box, and when he was done kind of looking at it, he handed it to me, and I kind of looked at it. Well, my first instinct when I hold a gun is to kind of pull the charging handle. So I pulled the charging handle, and it broke right off. So yeah, that's kind of a pain. I've been meaning to replace it ever since, so I'm going to order a new part for that, but it's just absolute garbage, I thought. But not much you can really do about it, just have to order a new one, I guess. So, oh well. Don't pull the charging handle. And now we have the orange flash hider. Now, the flash hider itself actually feels decently sturdy for being made out of plastic. And it is. It's pretty sturdy. And it's just a huge orange flash hider. And it's just like that to cope with the laws that they have when we ship guns. So, oh well, something I have to put up with, but it is easily removed actually. It has a small set screw in the bottom, and it was held in by glue, which I had to kind of heat up just a little bit. Not a whole lot. So, no biggie there, but I thought that was pretty easy and pretty easy to remove, so I didn't have much of a problem with it, so yeah. And here we finally make our way to the front sight. The front sight itself is actually made out of metal, so that's pretty cool. Much better than a junky plastic, because front sights sometimes get hit hard. So that's really nice, that's made out of metal. It is, however, not adjustable for neither windage or elevation. It is a stagnant sight, it does not move whatsoever. So yeah, and it is also built in with the outer barrel, meaning that you cannot remove it, unless you want to take a Dremel to it, that is. But it's pretty nice, and no real reason to remove it. When you put the sight mount on, you put a sight on it, your sight clears the the front sight very easily, so there's no real need to actually remove it unless you just don't like the way it looks, in which case, why did you buy a G3? And here we have the front sling mount. The front sling mount is actually made out of metal, thankfully, because it wouldn't be able to put up with any weight on a sling if it wasn't, and it's also built into the front sight, which is built into the outer barrel. So that's not really going anywhere. I did not have any trouble mounting a sight on it. It just looks kind of weird because it barely fits. So the sling itself kind of hangs there awkwardly. But other than that, it stays well and works nicely. It's a sling mount. It can't really not work unless it breaks. Now, we just got done reviewing the right side of the gun, and now we're going to move on to the other side. Since this gun is pretty much the exact same on both sides, we're just going to review the differences. The difference is that on the other side, we have just there's no pins actually sticking out. The pins go in from this way, and then you screw them in this way. So the screws are actually over here. That's no big difference, that's just a difference. One of the other differences is that you don't have a fire sight over here. So your gun is righty only. Though I'm a left-handed and right-handed shooter, and so when I use this left-handed, I really don't have much of a trouble. So anyway, in order to remove the fire sight, you have to unscrew it right here, and this is what I'm talking about. You can use a tiny little screwdriver just to tighten it up, where it's so loose on the other side. So if you want to do that and you're just loose like ours was when it came out of the box, then I recommend you tighten it, or else you're going to find yourself switching from semi to full auto without even doing it yourself. The next difference is that the mag release is different. It's just, the mag release is ambidextrous. There's one on this side, there's one on the other side. So yeah, that's kind of cool. They built it like that. And that's really all the differences. And we have our charging handle and dust cover right here. When you pull it back, it exposes the hop-up and part of the gearbox that you can see. The hop-up is a G3 specific hop-up, so you can't buy an M4 hop-up unit, or you can't buy a G36 or AK hop-up unit. It's just G3. So I've got the JG G3 loaded up with 0.25 gram BBs and a 7.4 volt LiPo. We're going to see the FPS and ready to fire. Full auto. Looking pretty good at around 240 to 260 FPS on a 0.25 gram BB. That translates to around 320, 325 FPS with a 0.20. Looking at about 16 rounds a second on a 7.4 volt LiPo, that's actually pretty good. So on 11.1 volt, probably looking at around 22, 23. So that's pretty good. For around $140 to $150, I'd say the JG G3 is an okay deal. But just the externals leave a lot to be desired. The really cheap plastic receiver plus the really cheap plastic magwell just really doesn't do it for me. And that loose fire selector is just a real pain. So if you're in a real pinch and you need a G3 and you don't have too much money, I'd say that the JG G3 is your best option. If you have more money, I would definitely check out the classic Army G3. The receiver and all the other furniture on that is all metal and it's very well built. So that does it for this episode. I'll see you guys later.